opportunity. And I've met quite a few of you guys already. We've been working for the past, 6, 7 months or more with this EPIC project. And it used to be AKA JTED SNAP pilot project that we were funded for in March. We got over $21 million to operate this project. And so we've been working pretty diligently. I've been working with Kathy and Caprice and Kelly and a lot of you guys on the development of the front side of this, which is the orientation side, which is what the Department of Human Services will be doing. So basically the intent of the EPIC program, it's a pilot program which has a pretty extensive evaluation that goes with it and study. Which basically means that some of the participants that you guys are going to be working with will be a part of the EPIC project and will receive services from what's called the treatment group. And those individuals are going to be referred to community-based organizations for extended and expanded services. And another part of the group that you're going to be working with that are interested in being in the program will not necessarily be assigned to that. They will be in what's called a core group. And our national evaluation team will be looking at both the treatment group and the core group and also the general population of SNAP participants to see, the differences based upon, services provided and measure results based upon, if more intensive services are provided to participants. So once again, your role in this is obviously you guys are doing the outreach and the orientation for this. And then those that are randomly assigned to the treatment group will be referred to the CBOs, and they will receive all of their employment and training services through the CBOs. So for those of you that are used to working with an employment and training programs, once they're assigned to the CBOs, it'll probably be pretty much business as usual for you guys, and you'll be treating these clients like an employment and training client. That you currently work with. And I know some of you guys do not have an employment and training programs in your area, and they're voluntary counties, and we're going to have to have separate outreach mechanisms with you guys, and each of these have to be designed individually based upon your area. But it will be more of a marketing and an outreach effort for the people that are considered to be in voluntary counties to access these programs, and that doesn't traditionally have an employment and training services in those counties. So, but the intent of today's webinar is, we've been working pretty hard on getting this front part of it done as far as the orientation piece. And this will be done in each of your local offices. And so Natasha's going to walk through what we have put together at this point. The entire orientation is going to be scripted for you guys. And we're looking, maybe at, I'm hoping, a maximum of 3 hours, and that also includes, it's called an assessment that we'll be using. It's called a NotKey 21st Century Assessment. That will be the last thing these individuals will be doing at the orientation, and that assessment could take up to 2 hours. So we're looking at, maybe approximately an hour for sharing information regarding the program and completing an application, and then the last part of it's the NotKey. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Natasha, and she's going to walk you through the orientation process. But what I really, really want from you guys is your feedback. We need to know what you think is going to work, what's not going to work, how this is going to operate in the field. Because, we're still in the design mode of this. We're getting really close to the point where we have to finalize it for implementation. So now is your opportunity to provide all of your feedback that you can provide to us on this. There are certain pieces that we're still working on. We're definitely working on the PowerPoint presentation, and we're bringing it down to more of a SNAP recipient level. And we're taking out information in that is being provided through the videos and that type of information. So there's still components we're definitely working on. So this is, like I said, your opportunity that we please want your input on this whole process. So with that said, Natasha, can I turn it over to you?
Sure. Okay. One thing, I know that we have quite a few people that have called into the call, and that's fabulous. Right now, I do have everyone that's on the call muted, but please do feel free to type in the chat, and if we'd like to, at certain points in time, we can unmute the callers to, have a discussion that way as well. But we do have about 40 people on the call right now, so I just want to minimize some of that background information, background noise. So on my screen or on your screen, you should be seeing my desktop. So hopefully everybody can see my desktop. And what you'll see on the screen, it says EPIC Pilot Program Partner Guide. Now, the pilot program tools are the tools that will be provided to give you access to customer information that will be used through the intake process, the eligibility review, to help identify those that are eligible for the program, as well as providing recommendations as to which training programs that would be best suited for that customer. And then for those that are enrolled, the EPIC Partner tools will be used by the community-based organizations to further, implement, bring the people, through the EPIC program. But you will also have access to that information, so you'll be able to see the full big picture. Now, there's a lot of information that we'll be covering over the next few months, but I do want to let you know, and I'll send out this link to the EPIC Partner Guide. And so this is a standard process that we have, where we provide you with a full list of resources and training materials and videos. So I can post this video in the archived webinar section. So you'll be able to access this plus the different various training materials. Plus we have an area for frequently asked questions, so we can continue or start developing that or so. And then provide you with updates and access to resources. So that's currently available. For today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the partner tools, because one of the first things, let me get to the right screen here. One of the first things that you're going to do is we'll get you set up, and so you'll have access to the partner tools. This is kind of what the EPIC partner tools looks like. We have our EPIC logo, and we have our organization agency level menu up here, so dashboards, customers. We'll have teams and reports. So there'll be, this will continue to further develop as we go through and continue developing the tools. You will be able to access this through your Illinois WorkNet account, and we will provide you, Illinois WorkNet staff, myself, and Dean, and our staff will provide you with access to these tools. So the information is protected, the customer information is protected, and you'll have your access to customer information through your username and login. So whenever you log into your EPIC tools, one of the first places that you'll see will take you to is your dashboard. Now your dashboard is what we're looking at now. We have an intake dashboard. We can have additional dashboards, but what we're focusing on today is the intake dashboard. So with the intake dashboard, let me zoom in just a little bit, make this larger, I should say. And what you'll see is that with the dashboard, it gives you an overview, a quick glance at where everyone is in the process. And for our dashboards, we have a standardized, color coding, and we have white is more an informational, just for your information. Yellow means that something needs to occur. We need to take a look at that person. Green means that person, these people are on target, good to go. And then the red means that this is where this person stops. And so you'll see that for each of these information bubbles, we have a definition for what each of these areas, what does it mean by schedules for orientation. So we'll have that information is right there at your fingertips as well. You'll see that we have these numbers, and when I select these numbers, it takes me to a filtered list of customers. Okay. you can see I have a couple people here that are scheduled for orientation. Now, one of the first things that I want to do is just say that the customers that are put into the EPIC program, we have an initial list that's going to be uploaded into Illinois WorkNet each month with your current system, and they'll be the customers that are eligible to be invited to orientation for the EPIC program. So we're going to take a look at that list. So let me zoom out a bit here. So you can go ahead and if you select customers, you can select DHS search, and you can search by region. We can have it where it's drill down to an office level. Let me take one step back and just say that whenever we give you access to your EPIC tools, you and your caseworkers will have the appropriate level access, whatever you let us know. Like, so if a particular person needs to have access to all regions, we can give you access to all regions. If they only need to have access to region number 3, we can have them access to only region number 3. So what you're looking at with this particular login is this person has access to all regions. But you can, enter in your regions, or if you know the person's name, you can type in their name. So we can take a look and we see that there are several people that are on the list that haven't been invited to an orientation yet. And so what I'm going to do is click the invite button. And this is the information that we received from DHS. So you can see their name, date of birth, social security number, address, the recipient identification number. I know this isn't what you normally see with these recipient identification numbers or case ID. Don't worry about that. These are just test people, so we just put in a number. But these numbers would actually be whatever's coming from your system. Okay, so when you make sure that this is the person that you want to invite to orientation, then you select invite, and I'm going to select for the 7th and invite. And this can be done on the fly. This can be done in advance, or this could be done, like a person just shows up into your, at your office and they want to participate or they want to attend orientation. You can do that like immediately. Once you search them, click the button, and they're invited. Now when you click invite, you'll see their username and their password. Now, one of the things you might be saying is, well, why is it important that I invite them to orientation? There's a few things. One, the research team wants, that's one of the areas that they want us to track are the number of people that are scheduled for orientation, miss orientation, attend orientation. That's one aspect of it. The other part of it is when you invite them to orientation, that gives them access to the application. Since this application is for a specific population, we don't want to just have it out there so that it's muddying up your dashboards with a whole bunch of people that shouldn't be completing the application. So when you invite them to the orientation, that gives them access to this application immediately. And one of the things when we were talking to some of the DHS staff, they said, well, what they would probably do is use this handout, which I didn't show you yet. And the handout, they would just have like a stack of these ready for orientation. And one of the things that they said that they'd probably do for their particular location is, take this sheet and write down the username and password on this piece of paper and hand it to them. You can do that, or you can, let them know, or however you want to handle that. That's up to your your area. You'll also be able to export a list of these temporary username and passwords. Okay, so I just invited that person to orientation. Okay, so now that they are invited for orientation, let me go back to my dashboard, because now you can see that I just scheduled this person for orientation and my dashboard number changed. So when I go to my dashboard, oh, there we go. And you can see that I invited Kelly. And I can go to Kelly's profile. And we just updated the application based on a conversation we had before the holidays. So I apologize that it's not here right this moment, but this is where you'll see, instead of saying general information, it'll say application. So you'll be able to see the full the results when this person completes the application. But the very first thing is they have their intake activities. And you can see that it's defaulted to has not attended orientation. Okay. Whenever you don't really have to worry about this section quite yet. We're going to go into the orientation, but I just wanted to show you that this is where you can access this particular person's intake activities. And I just invited them, and so I have immediate access to their intake activity page. Okay, let's take a side step here. Let me update this page. It needs to be updated because I need some updates. Okay. So one of the things that we can have is, this is a sample. We're working with the designer for more graphics to make it a little prettier, but this is a mock-up that we have for today. We can have an area so that they can learn about EPIC. Right now what we're looking at is a regional page. We can also have other information for employers, maps, FAQ, news, and then success stories. But what we're looking at and focusing on today is the orientation piece. So what we wanted to do was to provide all of the orientation materials for you in one place. So you don't have to you don't have to know where everything is all the time. It's just always there available at your fingertips. So what we have is the EPIC flyer, and what you're going to take a look at the moment is a template. But these will be customized for each of your regions. Okay, so this is the overview of the flyer, and we can customize, the counties so that they know which counties it pertains to, as well as the different sectors. Then we have this PowerPoint, which I don't have a link to in the PDF version yet, but we also have 2 videos that are in the process of being created. And for the short term, I have added the script, so you can read the script to see what's in the video. But we will be adding the videos, and so we'll just make those easily accessible from these links. We have an EPIC program overview video, and then we also have a random assignment video. So it explains what does it mean by the random assignment process. And then the orientation handout that I briefly mentioned earlier. So all of those will be available off of this page. One of the things that we like to use in LMA WorkNet is called SlideShare. And the goal here is to make your life easier, and so that we have everything already queued up for you. So we have our first slide, and what we can do is embed the video, the pilot program video here, so you can just play it for your customers. And we have, slides that can be in between. As Tammy mentioned, we're still working on this, developing it, really customizing it for the population. And then we have a random assignment video. And then we have the different details of the program and some of the points that we want to drive home for this program. to these people. Then we have, just a slide to show that, oh, we have a web page. And this could be something that is bookmarked on the computers that you have for easy access. We also have a short URL to get to it. We have some just real brief steps of what do you think of, when you look at this career information, what are some of the things you want to consider whenever you're selecting a career path? So we have some things to consider. This is an overview that David is working on. It will be customized for each of your regions, so we can take the different occupations that are being trained for in your area, and we can put together just a brief overview of the wages and the length of the training and some of the skills that are required. Okay, and then we can also add videos into each of these. So this is just an example of how we have videos embedded into this. So the idea is that all of it's all together in one place. These are some more videos that we just have put in there. And then an example of the next career sector with some more videos. So again, this is just a sample. And then we talk about, that after they take a look at these, they complete their application. It's going to go through a reviewing process, and then time for Q&A. Okay, so that is the PowerPoint that's right there. It's available for you. Okay, so then the next step on this page, again, trying to keep everything in one place for you, we have the listing of careers. This is an example that I was working on today for some of the occupations or training programs that were proposed by the Mantricon CPO. And so we have the medical assistant, nursing assistant, and so each of these can take them to more information about that particular occupation, so they can look at those. I don't have the videos in here yet, but this is an example of how we could have, manufacturing, and then the different occupations that they can train for, and then some videos that are available that are related to the manufacturing careers. So we could have the health science careers videos up here, TDLs right here, along with the manufacturing. And so I guess the point of this is that you can use this as a very, as a structure that we're all going to go through all this information as a group, or you could provide them an overview and let them do some career, exploring the different occupations that they find interesting or that they might be interested in. They can take, an allotted amount of time to review that information so that whenever they go to the assessment section, which is the next one that you see on the screen, that they can have, make an informed decision about the careers that they might be interested in. Okay, so I put this in here as assessments, which the first assessment is really the online application that we mentioned, and so we can change the wording. But I wanted to try to drive home the point that, there's a reason why we're having you do the online application. It's so that we find out, who you are, what are your skills, what's your education level, so we make sure that we put you with the right training program. And then we have the link directly to the application. Now, again, remember, if the person is not scheduled or invited for an orientation, like I showed at the beginning, then they won't be able to access this application. But we wanted to make it up front, right here, where it was real easy for them to access the application. Now, understanding that your customers may have different skill levels, and some people might actually have, a quite extensive work history, and some may not. And, some people might have more of a struggle of, getting through some of the questions. You could have them go through and do this application on their own, One of the areas in Chicago, I believe, said that, well, what they would probably do with their population is to have everybody go through the application at the same time. So what I'll be putting together, we'll take a look at the application in just a moment, but one of the things that I was going to put here, and I have it in red, I don't know how easy it is for everybody to see, that we can put a PowerPoint slide up here that literally has screenshots of each of the sections so that you can really handhold and if you want to go through and make sure everybody's seeing the same thing and go through it that way. But you don't have to. It's what we're doing based on some feedback. So what I did was I'm going to be logged in here in just a moment as a customer, as a SNAP recipient. So I could click on set up your or start your application, and I was already previous logged in as this person. But you can see that this is the information that we get from DHS up here at the top. And so we're going to pre-populate it with that information. And then we ask the question, is this information correct or not? And if it is, great. Then all you have to do is answer a few more questions, like for your phone number. Oh, I believe one other area that's not incorporated into this yet is the option for them to say that I don't have a phone number. So that's on our plan as well. So you can say, is the information correct? And then you can say, no, it's not correct. I need to make a change. So you can change the information. The information will be saved. And so remember, we want the information to be synced up with the information that's in DHS. And so with previous conversations with some DHS staff, they had said, well, it'd be great if they could go ahead and make the changes that they want to make. And then, you know, maybe like at the end of the week, we could run the report, excuse me, and they can make the necessary changes, you know, as needed in the DHS system. And then, you know, the next time it syncs up, then everything will be synced up. So we did include that option, and that report will be available. Okay, so the next page is where we give them several choices on what type of training programs they're interested in. And right now it's real generic. It's the career clusters. Okay, and so we'll just go ahead and select a couple of these here. Okay, so the original plan was to have, you know, various baseline assessments for all these different training programs. But once we started really looking at that baseline information, they had, you know, like, what do I say, baseline requirements that were really applicable across the board. So what we thought was, well, what if we have an assessment that asks these questions, and then what we can do is basically tag the different training programs, so that based on the characteristics for that training program, we can compare it to how they responded in their application, and that would give us a way to provide recommended training programs so that you as a caseworker, you don't have to go through all the training programs and try to figure out which is the best fit for this person. And so that's why we have some of these questions. So some of the things that we thought they'd be interested in is, you know, how long is the training plan? The training program. What are some of the ways that it'll be offered? You know, one of the big concerns was how do they get to the training? You know, would they have access by train, by bus? You know, are they just going to be able to drive there? And how far are they going to be able to travel? Now, none of these will keep anybody from being able to go to a training program. It's just some preferences of what they would like. So you'll still get results, but you'll be able to see, what matches up with their preferences. The next items are really kind of like what I just call like a hard stop. It's a hard requirement. If you can't lift 55 pounds, and that's a requirement for the job, then you won't see that training program. In some cases, it doesn't matter. So we have about the longest amount of time you'll be standing or sitting. Some of the assessments required like either a drug test or a TB test. Some had a requirement on vision. For example, forklift drivers have to be able to have vision that can be corrected with glasses or contacts. So you can see we have some information on appearances, and for taste and smell, those are mainly for like the hospitality area. Some of the other things that may impact it is their driving record. They have to have a driver's license, or they have to be able to pass a background check. Some of the other things would be, that they may have a preference on the language that's spoken at that particular training location. And then the other area that we have in the application are the employment goals. What are your goals? Full-time, part-time, temporary? When do you want to work? What type of job would you like to do? And, a text place where they can enter, where do you see yourself in a year? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And what are some of the things that you've already done towards working towards that goal? And a lot of these came off of that family assessment sheet that you work with right now. So, and then we have, gender, male, female, prefer not to answer, military status, marital status, the demographic information, are you authorized to work, and their highest grade level, and then they can enter in degrees or certificates if they would like. And what's their current employment status? Have they ever had a job? If yes, then they can enter in the employer's contact information, identify if they are currently working there or not, and then some potential employment potential barriers to employment. And then the final questions, just who are they working with and how did they hear about online working? Those are some of our standard questions. Then they can go to the next page and they can see the responses, all their responses, and then submit their application. So you'll have an access to view some of this as well. Okay, so that is the application. So again, you can have them go through that on their own, or you could use the screenshots from the slide, the PowerPoint, and walk through that process with your customers. So once they have completed the application, it's important that they submit the information. And let's see. Sorry, I was looking at the chat real quick. So it's important that they submit the application. So one of the things that if you wanted to, let me get to the right screen here, in your dashboard, let me just kind of show you where this falls into place. You can say, well, I'm working with a group of people right now, and earlier today my incomplete applications was for 24 hours was 0, and so I have 30 people that I'm working with right now, and 29 of them have completed the application, but one hasn't. So I could click on the list and say, well, Edward, that's who I was logged in. Edward, you didn't actually hit the submit button, so we need to make sure you go back in and hit the submit button. So once they hit the submit button, then they would be redirected to the NOCTI assessment. So this might be a good time for them to take a break, if you want them to, or not. But then we also have access to where they would click on starting the NOCTI assessment. So when they complete the application, it'll automatically redirect them to this page actually, yeah, I'll be logged in, but let me just go ahead and click it. It'll automatically be redirected because they'll already be logged in with their Illinois WorkNet account. So they would automatically be redirected to this page, or they can select the link like I did and enter their username and password, and they would get to this page. Now, the NOCTI assessment would be administered at this time during the orientation session, and it's really easy. I'm not going to go into the details today, but there's instructions, and we'll definitely provide direction on how to order the NOCTI assessment. Really, you're just going into Illinois WorkNet and literally selecting to order the NOCTI assessments, and you can say, if you want to order a month's worth of NOCTI assessments at one time, and you order, 100 or 500, whatever it may be, you can order that quantity, and you have a passcode. So your passcode is good for however many NOCTI assessments you order. The NOCTI assessment is a multiple choice question assessment that has various categories, and it's really about workplace skills, but they do have a reading, math, and writing area that that will be used to kind of try to give a somewhat of an indicator along with their education, highest level education completed, as to would this person possibly need a bridge program. And so that's why they're completing the NOCTI 21st Century Skills Assessment. Plus, if they do well, then they can go ahead and print out their certificate of completion, and they'll have that. That's a kind of a best thing that they can have. So they'll go ahead and complete their NOCTI 21st Century Skills Assessment. It's a timed assessment. They can have up to 2 hours to complete the assessment, and whatever they don't complete is just marked as incorrect. So, no worries other than that it is what it is. That's how much time they have to complete the assessment. I would say many people don't use the full 2 hours. Okay, so this is what your customer is going to see. So they're going to complete their NOCTI 21st Century Skills Assessment. Okay, let me go back as a caseworker. And I want to go back to someone that I've already looked at. Let me go ahead. Let me go to my customer list, my dashboard, no, the customer list. And I have a sample that's already set up. I want to work through one sample first. So in this case, I have Addie. And Addie attended the orientation, and it marked it as attended orientation because Addie completed the application. So the system automatically recognized that Addie completed the online application. So you don't have to go in and mark those people as attending orientation. The system will automatically do it whenever they submit or they start their application. That's one thing you don't have to worry about. If you have some people that after, before they ever start their application, they're like, you know what, I don't like any of these jobs and I'm not going to do this. You can mark them as, well, they attended orientation, but they didn't want to participate. That's the only thing in this section that's going to be required is if someone decides to leave and they didn't ever want to complete the application. The other section is it's going to default to required to complete the NOCTI assessment. And the only thing that's going to require you to do anything in this section is if you know you have a person, an ESL person, and the NOCTI is available in English, and if the reason is ESL, then you can just mark, no, they're not required to complete the NOCTI because of ESL. And so what that'll say is it'll let the system know that this person needs a bridge program. And then the other option that we really hope people don't do, but we need to collect the information because of the study, is where it says left before completing the NOCD. That means that, they just didn't want to finish it. And we just need a way for the researchers to know who is, to differentiate between those who just didn't complete it because they didn't have enough time to complete the NOCD versus those who completed the NOCD or just flat out chose not to complete the NOCD. Okay? That's the only thing that's going to require. Otherwise, it does it automatically. Any other notes? We really put this here for anything that's positive, primarily to say, this person really had a great attitude and whatever, that might be helpful with placing them in the future. Okay? So now we're to the point where the person has, let's do a real quick recap. They have reviewed, they've gone through, looked at the orientation materials. They have completed the online assessment. They have completed the NOCD. And before they leave, we want them to schedule a follow-up. So it's going to default to not scheduled for follow-up. And, if they are not, if they just say, I decide I don't want to participate, then we have scheduled for follow-up. They're not participating, but, in some areas they're required to do something else instead. Or they have given every indication that they still are interested in participating in the EPIC program. So we just choose scheduled for follow-up, and then you can set a date and then save it. And that will collect the information that the researchers need. Okay, so that's during the orientation session. Now, what happens after that? Okay, so the NOCD results, they'll get a summary of the results, and if you have the ability to print it out, then that's great. If not, that's okay. The final results will be within the person's Illinois WorkNet account within 48 hours. So within 48 hours of them completing the NOCD, these areas will be filled in. That plus the highest grade level completed will let us know if they would be recommended for a bridge program or a bridge program may not be necessary. So that's the first part that's up here, just to let you know if a bridge program is recommended or not. The next thing we have here, we're only going to populate this area with the training programs that match up to what the person indicated on their application. Like, so for example, if I said that I wanted to go into truck driving, but I can't, but I indicated that I'll never be able to get a license. I know it's an extreme example, but then like the truck driving, if I said I can't ever get a license, then the truck driving program will not be listed here. Or let's say I want to go into, I might be interested in the hospitality, and there's a very low grade level, or it's not really, they didn't really indicate anything significant on their grade level as a minimum requirement. I would see the hospitality programs here. I would see like a hospitality program plus, the hospitality programs that have bridge programs. So I would be able to see only the ones that really match up with however I answered the questions on the application. Then what the plan is to have additional programs. So, the ones that are listed up the front at the top would be, those that also meet the preferences. So the preference would be, I'd like to travel less than 25 miles. So those would be those items would be up here. Or, I'm going to have to, I don't have a bus and I don't have a train in my area, so I'm going to have to travel by car. Then we have, the transportation options here. as well as the length of training. So you would have easy access to a filtered list of training programs that match whatever the person indicated on their application. And then you could see for more details about that training program, you can click on Training Program, and you'll see, does it have a bridge program, what the number of openings, all this stuff. So what's the end goal, length of training, how's it offered, what's the language that's primarily spoken there. Those type of things that type of information will be available for you to take a look at if you'd like more detailed information. And so we'll have a DHS regional program staff person that will be doing this review, a DCO program staff person that will be doing the review, and then we have the DHS case worker that whoever has this role can do those reviews as well. So it'll be up to each region to identify who they want to be doing this review process. We did have to add a couple of more questions for the research group. And what they want to know, they said it's okay if it's not accurate, I guess, but they want their best, I don't want to use the word guess, but best, prediction as to what model this person would be going into. Are they going into Model 1, which is like a bridge program, or Model 2, which might be something like maybe like CNA, or Model 3, which is maybe like a licensed LPN or something like that. So they can do their best guess. And the reason why they want to know this is because they want to look at the people that are, the overall, what are we predicting for everybody, not just the people knowing who when they went into the final treatment group, but also the people that were in the group that aren't going to be receiving any special services. And then they want us to identify which provider. So, and so you'll see that we're just going to list the ones that were recommended up here will be that. And so we have to select one. And this right here, these two questions could be completed by any one of these three. Not everybody has to do it, but somebody will need to answer those questions. So we can still talk about that. So I've been doing a lot of talking, but that's the review process. And so then after that, this would need to be done when we were talking with the other DHS staff, within a week. And the way that you would know if it's time for whoever's been identified as the person to do the reviewing, they would be identified here. So again, remember I mentioned that yellow means action. So the DCO program staff, they would just keep an eye on this, and whenever it's time for, they see their number increase, they would just click on it, go to that person, look at the information, make the recommendations, and once that is done, then that's not in their list anymore. And so once the referral is recommended, then it'll be in green. And if they're just not recommended, and I'll show you an example of that. Let me go back to my customers. Again, this is a mock-up. So we've got Betty, and Betty just did not match up with anything in the area. So it'll say there's no recommended program or no recommended programs for this person. So Betty would end up going into this referral not recommended. So you can see by right now that this isn't hooked up, but this is where you could just easily access those filtered lists of people. So with that, let me go back to Addie. So then the next step after that is that the review process would be completed within a week, and then they would just come back in, and the group that's putting together the EPIS system, the random assignment system, they'll have a script as well that is literally a script for, signing the consent form and, reviewing the consent form, being able to answer any questions that they might have about that. And if they agree to be in the program, then they would sign the consent form. Then they would go into the EPIS system, which is a little bit different than our EPIC system, and they would answer or complete the random assignment form. And whenever they complete the random assignment form, then they, hit a button, and it automatically assigns them to the group. So they'll either be assigned to a group where they'll get the special EPIC program services, so where they'll be able to be assigned to a CDO, or they will be assigned to the core group or the control group, where they just go on with business as usual type services. So what you'll see once that, and so when you do that in the EPIS system, it'll populate LMyWorkNet, so you don't have to enter in yet another thing. It'll populate LMyWorkNet, and you'll see the assignment date and which group that they've been assigned to. If they've been assigned to the EPIC program services group, then you can assign them to a CDO. Okay, so that was a lot of information, and I know Tammy's been working the chat like crazy.
Yeah, if you guys have any additional questions, please definitely type them in. And like Natasha said, this is a lot of information to go through. There will be in-depth training, regional training offerings for all of you guys. And like I said, what we're going to do is we'll have you guys be like a participant. We'll walk through an orientation. So before we throw this out there at you guys, we're going to make sure that you know the system, very, very well, and that you're comfortable with it, because we want to make sure that your comfort level is where it needs to be before we even put you in front of your customers. And like I said, we're hoping, one of the reasons we want to present this to you guys now is if there is anything in particular that you see that you think, well, it'd be nice to be able to do this, or maybe this is kind of awkward. We want to know your feedback on this, because this is your opportunity to help us with the last design of the system. We need to really get this wrapped up, here within the next week or two, and get it finalized, because we need to start our training, I'm hoping by the end of this month, the first part of February. And then our evaluation team has their own system, which Natasha talked about, which is called the EPIS, E-P-I-S, which is going to be the random assignment system. And they're going to have their own training that they're going to be doing on that also for your staff. And that is my understanding that's going to start to occur probably in mid-February also. So, any input you guys can provide us is greatly appreciated regarding, what we've got established here. And Natasha, if anybody wanted to ask a question on the line, is there a way that we can unmute them?
Yep. Yep, and I see there's a question about if the worker is responsible for inputting all, because if 500 people are scheduled, and I'm assuming that's in the Chicago area. One of the things that we had, discussed is that, in that case, I wouldn't schedule, I wouldn't go in and put 500 people in. When it filters down to the people who indicate that they're interested in for the orientation, it's just to do those 30 people on the fly.
Yeah, and Chicago will probably have the largest orientation space, and we were looking at 30 computers. So, and it's my understanding from our last conversations that you may be looking at an orientation, say.
Oh, sorry, I muted you. Hold on. Unmute.
Your microphone has been turned on.
Go ahead, Tammy.
Okay, sorry, guys. And we had conversations, I know, with the Chicago staff that we're looking at probably 30 seats for doing the orientation at a time. So you may have an orientation in the morning and one in the afternoon, say on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it's from my understanding of the process that you call in quite a few people, but then you kind of weed through them based upon if somebody's already working or if it has a disability, and then you get down to that population of ABODs that are required to go into an employment and training program, some sort of a service. And then from that population, then this could be an offering for them, saying because this is a great opportunity for them. It's going to be a lot of services that will be available to them. So we really want those clients that, that have, the capacity and the desire to really, get into this and get a really good opportunity for training. So from that group of people, that's who, you're going to be, referring to the orientation. And like I said, we'll probably only have about 30 seats there, so, it may be that, somebody has to be assigned to an afternoon session if you have too many in the morning. And different regions, it'll be different. Like maybe in southern Illinois, you're going to actually do like a call-in, and you'll have a scheduled orientation, and you'll call in, if you have 15 seats, you may call in 30 people and schedule them for an orientation, but, you have 15 show up. So it's going to be something that I think in the local offices will, work with, your clientele and what their, their turnout rate and all of that is. So each of the local offices will design their own, the way that it works best for the orientation and for the outreach part of it. We're going to go through the questions. Okay, Kathy asks, since eligibility is required within a week, is there a notification system? And Natasha, maybe we can respond to this on me. I know that keeping an eye on the dashboard is something that whoever's responsible for that should do. They should be looking at the dashboard, probably daily. I don't know if an email system, is there anything like that could be implemented?
Yep. We can set up a notification if it's over X number of days or however you want to do it. I don't want to overwhelm your, we could send out an email notice every morning to say, you have 5 people waiting for review or something like that, or we could send it, if they're over. And I guess the reason why we came up with a week is mainly because when we're talking to the Chicago folks, because they have scheduled days for orientation. And, they wanted to say, what was it, if they did it on Tuesday, then they wanted to be able to schedule like their follow-ups for the following Thursday or something like that, or Friday. I can't remember what the details were on that, but that's where we came up with a week. But we can definitely set something up.
And for the review, like once again, it will be a regional person that DHS assigns and a regional person that DCO assigns. And the reason we had a case manager, sorry about that, I got a cough, is, because that's maybe somebody that has, a contact with the person, that, because it visually, seeing behavior sometimes helps you with decisions and stuff too. So just having somebody that is, in the local office that can also make a determination on that, is what we wanted to incorporate into it too. So it's really 3 people. It's somebody assigned from the local office and then 2 regionals that does that. So locally, it wouldn't be too much of a drain, on specific staff. And it shouldn't take too long to do that review process. I mean, I'm anticipating, Natasha, correct me, but just a couple minutes, a minute maybe or 2 for each one that you look at.
I would think so. Since we have a system now to narrow it down to just the programs that they are qualified for based on the baseline assessment.
And like I said, this is a pilot project, so I mean, there's a lot of different things we're looking at and can be testing. And I know Natasha and I talked about this too. Is eventually, can we get it to the point where, based upon their assessment and their NotKey score, that the determination is actually done by the computer? So that's something that we'll be reviewing and saying, does a team review really impact a decision on this, or is it possible that, based upon the information put into the system, the computer can make a a logical determination, and like that's down the road. That's something down the road that we would probably want to take a look at and see if that's something that could just be automated. Okay, we have. Now, we had a couple questions regarding customers, just different the customers that can't read or visually impaired. Those are topics that we're definitely going to have to address. Once again, this is a pilot project, and so we're serving a very small number of clients. Visually impaired, Natasha, you may be able to address that as far as the screen itself.
Yeah, the tools that we use within LMyWorkNet are developed as well as the site to work with assistive technology. So each of the locations, would have to have the ability for assistive, either to make accommodations, whether it's using assistive technology or a person, help them.
Right. And as far as customers that can't read, I mean, the caseworker could facilitate and help with those individuals in completing the orientation. The only thing that I would be leery of, too, though, is because you're going to eventually place them in the training program, so you need to make sure that the provider that we're placing them with have capacity to help them. So, somebody, if they couldn't read, would definitely need to be put into a bridge program. So when we're doing the alignment, we need to make sure that we're aligning them with a provider that has capacity to help them meet whatever their specific, needs are to get the training and employment. We have a tentative date for the Chicago office to roll out. Like I said, we're hoping that by the end of January and February we'll begin, training on this system. And then also our evaluation team has their training that they're going to be providing. And our last conversation with them, they were looking probably in February, mid to late February for their training. I know that they really want to try and start getting the process going in February if we can. And we're going to have probably, 3 months of just a test period. And it may be, where we roll this out in, a specific, counties at first. We'll just select a few offices for the initial rollout of this. So, but we're honestly looking at, March, April, and May probably being more of a test period, and potentially June being a full rollout of the program. But, nationally they want us to have a few months to, test our processes and our procedures and make sure things are working, before we completely try and roll it out. So training, like I said, I anticipate training in January and February, and that you're going to have training throughout the entire project. We'll be doing webinars, and then we got the CBOs that we're going to be bringing on board, so we're going to have a whole series of opportunities and trainings for them too. And then regional training, we'll be doing that, obviously too. But once the orientation part of it's, complete, and then you guys kind of go back to business as usual, and then it's just a matter of those in the treatment group that you follow up with them during your normal processes. So I think you have a monthly report that the providers have to provide to you on their engagement. So those types of processes, we're going to be working on building into the system too, so you can access them through that. Okay, do we have any other questions? We'll try to see if we have them responded to for the most part. Now, Jamie, I had a question, and Natasha, I may ask you on this one too, regarding the region in Chicago. Their region is broken up into North, Central, and South. And is that something that can be reflected in the application? And that may be something, Jamie, that we talk with you on, if it's beneficial to you guys to have it in the application regionalized like that. I don't think that would necessarily be an issue. I think we just need to know exactly, how you want that, what those regions are, and how you want that to be presented.
Right.
And then, Jamie and Natasha had another question. How long do the temp accounts last in the system, and are they automatically cleaned out if they do not get used again?
The temp accounts will stay in the system because they will be included in the numbers for the reporting for the research team, and so we need to keep those people in there. Their LMyWorkNet account or temporary account. No, let me see here. Their LMyWorkNet account is only created whenever they are scheduled for an orientation. So prior to that, all the information that we get from DHS, it's just kind of a temporary account, and it'll be updated based on whatever's updated in DHS. We'll update our system based on that. But as far as actual accounts, their actual account is not, live or accessed until they go in, for scheduled for orientation, and then it's activated once they are completing the application.
I see Jamie had a question that says, what is the overall workflow for this process? SNAP customer wants to participate. Worker does X, customer does X.
We have that, and so I can put it out on the, I need to double check it to make sure I don't think anything has changed significantly since we last updated the process a little bit, but most definitely I'll put it out on the partner program guide.
And then, John, your question is if a customer starts the program in a participating county and then moves to a non-participating county, do they drop off? Once you're in the treatment group, you're always in the treatment group, but that's going to happen where we're going to have customers, moving. So if they move from a participating county to a non-participating county, they would be served under the normal, your core services, your existing services in that specific county. So if they move to a voluntary county and there's no services available to them, then there's nothing that no services available. So their impact, their outcome, would obviously be affected based upon that move. But they would still maintain, like I said, if they move out of the county that's participating, you do whatever you normally do with them based upon the county they're in.
And then Jamie has a question: who keeps the regional pages maintained? And that would be the Illinois WorkNet staff. I don't really see any of these changing very much. I think once we have, the PowerPoint customized for each of the regions and the pages customized for each of the regions, really this is all pretty standard information. And I would think we would want to keep it standard. So yeah, Illinois WorkNet would maintain those pages, and if there's something that needed to be changed, then we could do it. But I don't foresee them changing very much.
Yeah, and then one other question, Jacqueline asked, the customers that are being referred or invited to EPICS are only coming from the IES system. We are getting data from DHS monthly, so it's a monthly data download. And Natasha, correct me if I'm not correct on this, but it's done overnight. So DHS will send a batch file to WorkNet, and then it'll be uploaded to WorkNet overnight and update the information in WorkNet. So there could be a possibility where, say at the beginning of a month, a client comes in and they become eligible for SNAP benefits, and they want to enroll in the EPIC pilot project, but they're not actually in the data system because they weren't in our data transfer. We'll have the capacity to add that information into WorkNet. But what will happen with the next data transfer, the information that is put into DHS at that point for that client will override the information in WorkNet. Because we want to keep consistency with the data. The DHS is the primary system. So we want to make sure that the information that is in DHS is also in our WorkNet system. And that's why we say, if you're working with a client and there's something on their application and they're like, well, my name is spelled wrong, then that needs to be corrected back in the DHS system, because that's the primary system. Okay.
But yeah, the question is the data transfer from intake only. It would be used for intake only. Yeah. But I guess I should stand correct on that too. I mean, if there's information that's changed in DHS, in the DHS system, it could update the Illinois WorkNet system. Yes. Yes, it's for the data transfer is from it'd be for customers that are eligible for the program. So yes, it'd be for intake, but We can also update the client information that we get from DHS even after they're enrolled in the program, so that the systems stay synced together, like their address and that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, so like any of the information that's in the DHS download will always be information that's in the DHS system. Now, additional information, the application actually, a lot of that was designed after your family assessment form. So a lot, there's quite a few fields from that are a part of the application. So information like that is new information. It's information that is stored in WorkNet that's not necessarily in your DHS system. Okay, James is still typing. If there's any other questions, please, go ahead and respond in the type box. Yeah, you have a large customer base. Yeah, James, on yours. And we're aware of that.
Yeah, and so, but you can search by their name, first name, last name, date of birth. I think the RIN number. You'd be able to search for those customers.
Okay, we'll give you a few more minutes just for some more questions. If you are comfortable with what we've presented, and please, like I said, send, I'm Tammy Stone. You can send me questions directly, and we'll make sure to get them addressed and put them in the FAQ. And then we'll send you out a link, to the FAQ and the partner tools and all of that information. And then, like I said, once again, we're going to be scheduling a couple things we're wrapping up. We need to wrap up, obviously, our IT needs. That's a big one. There is still some, some data sharing contracts that we're working on. But we're wrapping up our IT needs and then wrapping up this orientation, component so that we can start, you guys' work with the outreach and orientation. And then we're also bringing on the CBOs. We've had the review of the CBOs, and we're meeting with both of our organization's management teams to make the final decision on that. So I'm hoping by next week we'll have the CBOs all selected. So we're really making some progress. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be interesting, progress. And like I said, this is a pilot project. So the entire time it's going to be a moving target. We're going to be transitioning. If something's not working, we're going to figure out a better way of doing it. So the more you guys can communicate to us and your needs, the better it's going to be all around, because we need to know how it's going to work in the field, and the real world. So the better that you guys let us know what works for you, it's going to help us all. Okay, Jamie had, so current customers receiving services for SNAP now will not be eligible for this program. Only new customers from the, it's my understanding that I think what the target is to try and go for the new customers. Current customers are also can be served. So our primary target is ABODs. And I think the first area that we're going to target is new ABODs. And then after that, then ABODs that are not engaged. So obviously, if there's an ABOD, especially I know in the Chicago area, there's a lot of ABODs, but there's not enough seats to put them in. Oh, we had somebody, but so I think the level is new ABODs, and then ABODs that are not engaged, that need to be engaged in employment and training services that are mandatory for mandatory counties. Kathy, does anybody else have any comments that they want to add?
Can you hear me, Tammy?
Yes, I sure can. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, I don't have anything. Just for the offices, continue to shoot any questions or concerns that you have to Tammy or myself. We do have Ms. Deidre Wesley on board, who is the manager for EPIC. She is on board, along with Ms. Diana Doss is on board for DHS as well as the assistant. And so we're staffing up, and anything you need from us, just let us know. We're here to help.
Okay, well, thank you guys all so much for participating. I know we've really went over our time here. And, you know, like I said, we really are excited about this. So we're done for now. We'll be communicating with you here real soon. And like I said, we're going to start to schedule our regional training offerings. And we'll hopefully kick off running this year. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Tammy.